wonder, how dependable is your team? You may have seen this story a few weeks ago about this Tesla driver who was driving across Australia, and across the Nullarbor, he knew that there were charging stations along the way. So he planned his trip very carefully so that he knew that when he got to a charging station, he could recharge his car and it'd be full, and he'd have plenty of charge to get to the next charging station and so on before he ever ran out of juice. Unfortunately, 2 or 3 of these charging stations in a row, which were hundreds of kilometers apart, were broken down. They weren't working. So literally he was stranded by the side of the road for a couple of days waiting for one of them to be fixed, because he'd kind of relied on this, and normally that's quite reliable, and he'd mapped it out and he knew that he could do it, and he had enough of a little margin for error in there. But suddenly this catastrophe occurred because things that were reliable weren't reliable anymore. And this happens whenever you've got change and uncertainty. It causes a lot of stress for people when there are things that they could depend on, they can't depend on anymore. You may know this right now. You may have been to your local servo and found that it was closed, or it was out of petrol or out of diesel. You know this when you choose a cafe. Your regular cafe, I bet, is one that reliably creates the kind of coffee that you want. It doesn't have to be the best in the world, but it's also reliably good enough. You don't want something that's the best in the world today, but tomorrow you never know, it might be terrible. Then you go back another day and it might be somewhere in the middle. You go back another day, it's the best in the world again. It's just not reliable and you can't depend on it. And even things that aren't 100% precise, as long as you can depend on them being okay, that's okay. It gives you a little bit of peace of mind. So for example, if you tend to work late at night and some days you have to catch the last train home from work, and you know that the train's due at a certain time, but look, it's never exactly on time. It might be 5 minutes late, it's 10 minutes late, it's never more than 20 minutes late, and it's never does it not turn up. That's good enough. As long as you know what the margin for error is, you know that you can live with that. But if sometimes it didn't turn up, or sometimes if it turned up 10 minutes early and you missed it and you were stuck, that's a problem. So we rely a lot on dependability. And the reason I'm using the word dependability is because it's one of the 5 things that Google identified when it did what they call Project Aristotle. Aristotle said the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and Google was looking for what makes the most high-performing teams. And one of the 5 things they came up with was dependability. That people in the team could depend on each other, and just in small things. And you know this with your team as well. There are small things that people ask each other to do, and you don't have to strictly enforce it as long as you know that people are dependable. So let's take an example. Like you might ask somebody else to give you a report by 2 p.m. and if you can depend on them giving you the report by 2 p.m. because you know that you need that because you're going to some other meeting where you're going to present that report to someone, then everything's fine. But if the other person delivers it to you at 2:05, and that's too late because you've already started the meeting, so you can't even read your inbox until you get out of the meeting, that's a problem. Or if you know that there's plus or minus 10 minutes on it, that's okay. Again, that's all right, as long as it doesn't go outside that range. I'll give you another example. Let's say you know that everybody in your team, if you ask them to read some material before a meeting, they will read the material before the meeting. And that means when you turn up at the meeting, you don't have to spend a lot of time explaining the material because they've already thought it through and bringing their ideas to the meeting based on the fact that they've read it. That's dependability. And dependability matters a lot, especially when there's a lot of change going on externally, where lots of things externally are not dependable. The dependability within your team becomes even more important. So how do you do dependability in your team? And it may be in very small things, and it's very tempting to think these are such a small things that they don't really matter. But remember, dependability matters to your team members. When creating a high performance team, absolutely, but also when there's a lot of change and a lack of dependability and reliability outside the team. So how do you do dependability? If you'd like to see some examples of this, download the worksheet that I've got for you here. Look through them, chat through them with your team and identify the things that are important to you, important to your team. And they won't be exactly the same as I've listed here, but they'll spark some ideas for you. And even if you think this is not important, look at increasing the dependability inside your team. It's fantastic for building a high performance team, but it's more important than ever now when we've got a lot of uncertainty and change outside the team. I'll see you in the future.